Welcome to Royals at the Ranch for Thursday, May 12th, 2022. This week's episode features Mesmer. Mesmer arrived on April 21st, 2021, so he has been here just over 1 year. He came from a breeder who produces large numbers of Python Regis and maintains them in rack systems with no socialization. They are interacted with for feeding and cleaning. He was microchipped prior to shipping and apparently shipped immediately after the microchipping procedure. Mesmer is an all-white snake with black eyes, a super fire. It was evident upon arrival that he had bled from the microchip implant site and that it was fresh. He had blood on several areas of his body and a scab forming at the injection site. So the injection site had clearly bled and he had rubbed on it. He had blood on his face as well. We microchip snakes here after gradual desensitization to touch and handling and after gradual preparation for the eventual injection. They typically bleed very little or not at all if there's no flinching when the needle sticks and are not distressed by the event because we've prepared them for it ahead of time. Mesmer was hatched on August 5th, 2020, so he was already 8.5 months old when he arrived here. He was fearful on arrival, balled up and frozen with no tongue flicking, and there was no subsequent relaxation of his body. He was placed for quarantine and remained for the next 7 months in a 20-gallon sliding top terrarium. He was relatively inactive and shy, choosing to remain hidden or mostly hidden the majority of the time. He would stick just his head out of one of his hides and observe what was going on. I saw him basking twice during that time, and at around 6 months of time, he started to come out more and stretch out in the enclosure and over his climbing furnishings. He was eating well, but would either take the food off of a target left in his enclosure or snatch it quickly from tongs and pull it with him back towards his hide or all the way inside his hide with him. He was getting big at this point. He had always been a thick snake. By the time he was over a year old, 15 months, I felt it was time to move him out of that 20-gallon and into something larger. That was a mistake, sort of. In retrospect, I should have moved his 20-gallon, which he was becoming very, very comfortable and relaxed in, along with him into a larger enclosure, and then I could have let him come out when he wanted to. I didn't. I moved him, and just him, with all his furnishings, into a 36 by 24 by 18-inch enclosure. I abandoned his 20-gallon altogether and just moved him with all his stuff. This was a setback, so in retrospect, I would have made a different decision if I had it to do over again. He had been remaining visible more and more and behaving more confidently inside his 20-gallon, but moving him was distressing for him, and he retreated into hiding for several months, sticking his head out only to eat and snatching the food back into his hide with him. I stumbled upon him out drinking a few times during the night, and he immediately bolted back into his hide. He was shedding inside his hide, and he was eliminating inside his hide. I would wait for him to move into his humid hide to clean, since it had a bottom, and I could lift it out with him in it to clean, or I could cover the opening while I cleaned and gave him new water. I attempted to introduce him to an exercise space in this manner once, and he was completely averse to the move, to being handled, and he displayed freezing behavior at first, and then striking behavior, and launched himself out of my hands, falling onto the floor and then into his water as I attempted to gently put him away. He started from square one again after that, or I should say we started from square one again after that. Thankfully, he had been target trained since he arrived, and he caught on to that relatively quickly. He would poke his head out of hiding when he saw the target, and he would eat. So we started there and worked up to where we are now. 13 months since his arrival and 5 months since his move to the 36 by 24 by 18-inch enclosure. Just in the last 5 months or so, he's begun to come out and move around his enclosure, drink more frequently, and remain out when I'm working nearby. He has gradually been targeting further and further out of hiding and closer to his doors. He has been watching activity going on around him. He has remained visible while eating the last few sessions, and this week he targeted to his door and over the threshold, and he remained partially outside of the door as he ate. He also hung outside his doorway, watching me train the rainbow boas next to him. He remained out while I was working with the inland carpet pythons living on the other side of him, and he had not one but two successful target training repetitions when he came partially out of his door and remained there to eat. He is making progress and serves as an example of how patience and modifying our own behavior based on the needs of the individual snake pay off over time. He will remain on this path, or I should say, we as a team will remain on this path. We're going to be letting him dictate when he is ready for each next step. He is just going to be 2 years old later this year, so we have many years to work up to more activities and introduce touch and handling as he lets us know when he's ready for that. I know this is not most people's ideal pet snake. I have many other snakes who are extremely interactive, so I have the luxury of allowing Mesmer to be himself, evolve his personality, and gain confidence with no pressure or expectations of him. I know that if you are adding just one pet snake to your family, your expectations are likely different. Most people tell me that they want to see their snake moving around and being visible inside the enclosure. They would like their snake to be awake and active when they are. They would like to hold them, and they would like to have their snakes come out. They want their snakes not to bite them and to be comfortable interacting. Those or other expectations should definitely be discussed with your breeder or with whoever you're getting your snake from, whether it's a royal python or another species. The snake's behavior and temperament should be assessed before you bring it home to make sure it will be a good fit and is likely to meet your expectations. Ideally, it should have been exposed to stimulation, preparing it for things it is likely to encounter in a home as someone's pet. It should have been exposed to human behavior. In other words, it should have had the ability to observe humans moving around and working in the environment where it lives, and be used to activity like electronics, lights, other pets, people, all the sights and sounds common in a home. Gradual desensitization to touch and handling should have been done so that the snake is truly comfortable and relaxed with this and not just tolerating it or freezing in fear from it. Choose wisely and take the time to assess how the snake was raised and its current personality and behavioral tendencies, because you will have it a long time, and it's unfair for you to have expectations of the snake outside the realm of its individual temperament and outside of what life experience to date has prepared it for. If you've been following the Royals at the Ranch series, you are already aware that we have asked some breeders to do temperament checks on snakes prior to making the decision to add them to our program, and we have also had them provide some of the snakes with environmental stimulation, enrichment, and in some cases start target training. In every case where this has been done prior to arrival, the snakes have transitioned into life here easily and are doing well with training, handling, and general activities.